What's going on, guys? My name is Fat Bento and welcome to my first Lost Ark video. And today I am bringing to you my complete guide to tier 1 gear. I'm going to go over with you everything that you can do in order to get from item level 302 all the way up to 802 in about a week and a half. Let's jump right into it. So for starters, we're going to talk about how to get item level 302 and begin tier 1. The first thing we need to do is get to level 50, and the easiest way to do that is just by doing the main story quest all the way through Vern. If this is your first time leveling a character, I have two main things that you need to note. One is you should do all side quests till you're about level 27, because the XP that they give is worth it. And number two, you can actually skip the continent of Annika, but I would recommend against this because the quests give enough XP that you will get 50 guaranteed by Vern. So once you complete the main story quest in Vern, you have two options. One is to continue the main story quest to Shoeshire, or number two is to get your item level 302 gear by running a Chaos Dungeon. I personally would recommend doing 2 Chaos Dungeons just because you will get all your item level 302 gear and it'll make doing Shoeshire a little bit easier. If you didn't know, you basically only have to do the main story quests on one character on the server. And this is made possible by two things, your power passes and your knowledge transfer. Power passes are free boosts to 50 and you should have 2 of them once you get to about Shoeshire. And around the same time, you will be able to unlock this knowledge transfer machine in your stronghold. The power pass and knowledge transfer essentially do the same thing. They both complete the story on a character through Shoeshire, but you get 2 power passes for free and knowledge transfer costs 600 gold per character. I personally think both are super worth it, especially because of the importance of alts, which I will make a separate video on. And in terms of gold, you get way more in tier 2 and tier 3, so 600 gold is totally worth it at tier 1. So now that we are item level 302, we can talk about upgrading and getting a higher item level. The way you increase your item level in Lost Ark is by honing. The gear honing merchant is in every major town and is identified by this giant hammer. In tier 1, there are 5 major materials that you need to know about. This is the Harmony Shards, Harmony Leap Stones, Guardian Stones, Destruction Stones, and Star's Breath. The red Destruction Stones are used to upgrade your weapon, and your blue Guardian Stones are used to upgrade your gloves, pants, chest piece, shoulder piece, and headwear. Harmony Leap Stones are required to upgrade as well, and Shards are used to put in gear XP in order to be able to upgrade. So our first major objective after we get to tier 1 is to hit item level 460 to unlock the next continent, Rowendell. And to do that, you're going to need a ton of mats. But how do we get them? There are about 6 or 7 ways in order to obtain these materials, but I'm going to go over them with you in order of importance and ease. The first and most important thing to do in order to get materials is by exploring islands in the world of Arcasia. On screen now, I will have a map of a great route that you can do that will easily get you the materials that you need to get to +8 on your gear, which is item level 460. So you're going to start in Lutera, and then you're going to go to Serenity Isle, then Toto Silver, then to Freedom Isle, then to Blackfang's Den, then Lullaby Island, then Estella, then Starlight Isle, then Panda Isle, then to Peto, then to Dream Gull, and next is Golden Wave, and then White Wave, and finally Shadow Island. Doing all of these islands does take a lot of time, but it is enough materials to get you to probably +10 or 11 on all of your gear, and get you way past that 460 item level that you need. But these islands can be a little difficult, so I have some notes that I'm going to read to you about each one, and if they are necessary, I will have some links in the description to help you out. So our first stop here is on Serenity Isle, and you'll notice when you get here that there is no exclamation mark indicating that there is a quest here. But if you come up here and talk to this pile of wood, it'll start the quest chain that you need to do for the materials. The next island is Lullaby Island, and I am not good at explaining everything that you need to do on Lullaby Island, so I will have a link to a guide from Maxroll in the description. But just know that you will need to get something from our next stop, Peyto, in order to complete Lullaby Island. Next is Dreamgull, and you actually need the Minuet of Forest that you get by completing everything on Lullaby Island in order to fully finish Dreamgull. So you can either delay Dreamgull until you have that, or you can do it up until you need the song and then come back and finish it once you have it. So we are here on the deck of Peyto, and this is a very important place because you need to do 3 very important things here. The first thing you need to do is complete the quest right here. It is a yellow quest in front of the stage. It's called Becoming an Idol, and it rewards you the Sway emote, which you will need to complete some other islands. The next thing you need to do is come over here, and there should be a purple quest in this area that is called Glacier Island or something like that, and you'll need it to unlock Glacier, but we will be doing it much later. And finally, you're going to need to pick up the song from this exchange merchant in the top right corner of Peyto. You're going to need exactly 16,500 pirate coins to unlock the Song of Resonance, which is the song that I was talking about that we needed for Lullaby Island. The next island I want to talk about is White Wave Island. This quest actually requires you to unlock the second half of the sea, which you can't do until you go to Rowendell, and thus you can't complete the quest until after item level 460. And finally, Shadow Island can be delayed if you can't kill the werewolf on the top floor, but after 460, you should be able to do it pretty easily, so if you want, just delay it till after Rowendell. The rest of the islands are pretty straightforward, and if you ever need help trying to find an island, just come into your world map and type it in, and it'll light up where it is on your map. One final note about island quests: most of them are purple quests, and that means they are roster quests. And what does that mean? Roster quests are only able to be completed once per server. So when you're doing island quests, make sure you do them on your main, because your main is what needs them the most. There are much easier ways to gear up your alts that I'll be going over in my upcoming alt guide. So if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe. The next major way to get materials is by doing Chaos Dungeons. Chaos Dungeons are in any major town, and they are indicated by this yellow winged spire. There are 2 very important things when it comes to Chaos Dungeons, and this is your Aura of Resonance and your Rest bonus. Having Aura of Resonance available means you will be getting the maximum amount of materials and gear from these Chaos Dungeons. And on top of that, the Rest bonus actually doubles the rewards that you get from this Aura of Resonance. So since you have 100 Aura of Resonance a day, you should be doing Chaos Dungeons at least twice a day. But there is more to it than that, because you can actually do these dungeons infinitely. After you use your Aura of Resonance, Chaos Dungeons drop different materials that you can use at the Chaos Dungeon Exchange Merchant for your tier 1 materials. You're going to get these perception shards, and you can see what you can exchange them here for. I personally would try and buy every single one of these out every week on the character that you're trying to do. That is because the materials that you get from this merchant are bound to your character, so make sure you claim them on the character that you need to. But these perception shards are actually roster bound, so you can put all the ones you have into your roster storage, and you should be able to claim all these on any character that you want. You will also get these disorder crystals, and you can actually buy these materials and use the dismantle button in order to dismantle them, and you get some materials back from them. This is pretty inefficient for everything other than shards, but if you absolutely have no other choice, this is a way to get more shards. The next major source of materials is your Guardian Raids, indicated by this red banner in every major town. When you look in here, you will see a pretty similar interface to the Chaos Dungeons, in that you can harvest 2 souls per day, and there's a rest bonus that gives you double the rewards for harvesting the souls. If you don't have Guardian Raids unlocked, there is a purple quest here in Vern. It is actually in Reina Village, and you're going to go into the Adventurers Guild, and I believe it is Annabelle who gives it to you. So if you don't have it, go do that purple quest. It's called like Guardian Raids. And then you should have it unlocked. These Guardian Raids also have a first time clear bonus, so do every single one of them at least once on a character. But when it comes to doing a daily thing, you're going to want to run the highest level that you can for both Guardian Raids and Chaos Dungeons. The next major source of your materials comes from your Una's task. So if you open Alt J on your keyboard, you will see the Una's task menu. In here, you have the ability to select both daily and weekly missions. So when it comes to daily tasks, should be able to do 3 a day per character, and there is a limit to how many you can obtain on your account per day. Your dailies also have rest bonuses, so when it comes to completing them, you will be able to get double the rewards. It is important to note that these tasks scale with your item level, so since I am tier 2 on this character, I have these blue shards, but you will be able to have the green shards when you see it in yours. When it comes to selecting your dailies, I would recommend prioritizing leap stones and shards. I personally tend to do the leap stones on all my characters just because they are the most scarce of the 4 resources. The quests I recommend doing for leap stones are Where It Belongs, Rubbing Away the Marks of Time, and Ride Like the Wind. These are all very easy quests to complete and they synergize quite well with each other. Where It Belongs requires you to go to Shoeshire and just kill a couple of mobs here in the Frozen Sea. Rubbing Away the Marks of Time is a quest on Toto Silver Island and it's very easy. You just collect 50 salt and you give it to the NPC. And Ride Like the Wind synergizes really well with this because it takes you from Pato to Turtle Island, down to Tortoik, and then over to Revelry Row. So the way I like to do this is I start at Pato, then go to Turtle, then down to Toto Silver, then to Tortoik, and then finally to Revelry Row. If you're looking for shards, I would recommend doing the Fairy's Friend, Die 100 Deaths, and Crook Catcher quests. The Fairy's Friend and Die 100 Deaths quests are both located here in Vern, and the Fairy's quest is here in the Vernese Forest, and the 100 Deaths is here in Fesnar Highlands. And finally, the Crook Catcher quest is on Runaway Island. It is a bit far out of the way, but it does give the most amount of shards from most of the daily quests, so it's very easy. You just gotta find 3 criminals and easy shards. And when it comes to the weeklies, I also prioritize shards and leap stones because they are very, very scarce resources like we already talked about. I personally just do the Chaos Dungeon quests because they give you shards and they're very easy to complete, especially if you're doing 2 Chaos Dungeons on a character every single day. So just by doing your 2 Chaos Dungeons every single day, you end up completing 2 weeklies per character. There is another benefit of doing your daily and weekly Una's task, and that is your weekly roster mission. Right here, you can see this point system, and by doing your dailies, you get 2 points, and by doing a weekly, you get 12 points. Unfortunately, my webcam is kind of blocking it, but you can see down here that there is a total goal of 70 points per week, and you get these Una's tokens. You can exchange your Una's tokens in any major town at the gold shop, and you can see that you can exchange them for gold. I did some quick math, and that will be on screen right now, and it basically shows you how much gold you get per week by doing your Una's tasks. Basically, what it comes down to is you make a minimum of 450 gold per week by completing your weekly roster mission. Once again, in every major town, there is an exchange merchant, this time for Simile Bloodstones. Simile Bloodstones are obtained by doing stuff with your guild, and so this really only applies if you are in a guild. Basically, all you gotta do is contribute to the guild task and guild research, and at the end of the week, you will get an amount of bloodstones. The merchant has a honing materials tab, and you will be able to exchange for shards, fragments, and leap stones. The amount you are able to obtain is based on your guild shop level, so be sure to prioritize leveling your guild shop in your guild. Another way to get your materials is from the traveling ship merchant. It is the one with the red and blue sails that you find at any port. And in here, there is a weekly amount of fragments and shards that you can claim with pirate coins. You're going to want to make sure you do this every single week because these fragments are account bound, meaning you can put them in your roster storage and use them on any character. This is not the case for the shards, so only buy the shards on the characters that need them. If you run out of pirate coins, there is an exchange here for different types of coins in order to get pirate coins. And the way you get these other coins is from these sailing coin selection chests. If you're going to do this, I would recommend opening the sun coins from these chests because they have the highest exchange rate. As you can see, it is 20 pirate coins per 1 sun coin. But very important, do not open all of your chests at once because you will need these Ganaya's coins and some of the other coins later down the line in tier 2 and 3. So I would recommend only opening about 1,000 Sun Coins or 2,000 Sun Coins at a time. Because Pirate Coins are roster bound, you should be able to get all of these on every single character in your roster just by opening about 1,000 Sun Coins. Of course, this cost increases based on how many characters you have, so you'll figure it out. The next place to get materials from is from the tower, and this is a little complex, because if you come into the tower the first time, you will mostly get your class engravings, as well as cards and skill points. But every subsequent time you clear the tower on your roster, you actually end up getting materials instead of these engravings and report chests. So if you want to, you should get an alt to about item level 400 so it can clear to floor 15. And then on your main, you should go and clear all the way up to floor 15 for these material chests. And I'm gonna be honest with you, getting to the 400 item level is very simple, just by doing everything we've talked about before. The next place we're gonna talk about is Mari's Secret Shop, and it is probably the most controversial place to obtain your materials. A lot of people think this is a cash shop or it is a pay to win type of thing, but it is not. I thought it was until I came down here and saw the currency exchange. So in here, you can buy blue crystals for gold. So right now, if I wanted to buy 100 blue crystals, it would cost me 244 gold, which isn't that bad because the more people that use it, the higher the gold cost will go. So really, it's not that bad. However, I can see the argument that this is pay to win because you can buy gold with real life money, but personally, I didn't do that. I only did this towards the end of my tier 1 because I didn't want to wait for the weekly reset. And in addition to that, I ran out of my weekly amount of shards because I failed my weapon 4 times in order to try and get it to 600. So just know that Mari's Shop is an option, and if you want to rush, I would recommend doing this. But even in about a week after you wait for the weekly reset, you will have the materials that you need. So it is an option only if you really want to go fast. And honestly, Mari's Shop is really good and honestly necessary in tier 2, but I will talk about that more once I am tier 3 myself and can make a full guide on tier 2. And now we are at the finale of places to get these materials. I would highly recommend against this unless you are done and don't want to wait any longer. And this is the auction house. Once you're in the marketplace, you're going to want to go down to enhancement materials, and then you can look at honing materials for your fragments and shards, as well as additional honing materials for your breaths and your leap stones. The only 2 things I would ever consider buying on the market are the red destruction stone fragments, as well as shards, because these are the 2 most rare and most vital materials that you need to do your upgrades. So those are the 2 that I would recommend if you are going to buy them with gold. If you have done half of the methods that I have mentioned in this video, you are easily at item level 460, and that means you have unlocked Rowendell. In my experience, it took me about a day and a half to 2 days to get to item level 460, but I'm a super grinder, and if you are playing super casual, you can do it in less than a week. At item level 460, you unlock the ability to go to Rowendell. You need to accept a quest from the Queen and Vern, and that will let you be able to sail all the way over to Rowendell. Once you are done with Rowendell, now your item level goal is 600. And that is when we unlock Yorn and tier 2. So after Rowendell, what you need to do is pretty simple. You need to finish all the island quests that I mentioned before. They are super necessary to get all the way to tier 2. After Rowendell, you actually have the ability to do 2 more islands. There is Phantasm Island, which is at the north of Rowendell, just above it. It's really simple, it just takes a little while. And then that purple quest that we picked up in Peyto for Glacier Island is now able to be complete, so be sure to do that. And if you didn't do it already, you need to finish the White Wave objective places, and you should be good on islands. But once you are done with your islands, you might hit a wall in terms of materials. So that means your only real options until the weekly reset are to do your Infinite Chaos dungeons or your Una's tasks. But this is where alts come in. So when you have alts that are in tier 1, which they all should be if your main is in tier 1, you are able to get at least double, if not triple, if not quadruple the rewards, depending on how many alts you have. Basically, you just want to do 2 chaos dungeons and a task on them every day, and it's pretty easy. The materials that drop from chaos dungeons are mostly unbound, so that means you can put them in your roster storage and you are able to use them on your main, even if you got them on your alt. But just a reminder that the stuff from the exchange merchant is bound on your character, so if you are going to keep doing chaos dungeons, trade the perception shards and disorder crystals in your roster storage and make sure you buy your stuff on the right character. So basically, this is how you get to item level 600. It's really simple. Doing everything in this video is really easy. You just gotta know that it's gonna be a little bit of a grind. And by a little bit of a grind, I mean it's gonna take you probably a week and a half, depending on how much you are playing. In my personal experience, my RNG was kind of bad, so I needed the materials that were able to be purchased on the next week in order to get to 600. So it took me about 8 or 9 days, when it realistically, if you are super lucky, can take you like 6. And if you decide to use Mari Shop or the auction house, it can be even faster. It just all depends on how you want to play. But I did forget to mention one other major component of endgame, and that is Abyssal Dungeons. This is something you are doing on the side. This is not generally used to get upgrade materials. They give some mats, but not enough for it to be super impactful. The reason you do Abyssal Dungeons is for 2 entirely separate things. You're doing it for the weapon and accessory set, as well as the gold. Now, this is not strictly necessary to do, but the purple and then the subsequent orange legendary gear sets actually give some pretty great bonuses. The purple set for tier 1 gives you an attack speed buff as well as additional damage, and the legendary gives you a movement speed buff as well as an attack power buff, which means you'll just be doing more damage. If you are unlucky and you don't get all the gear pieces you need, you can come to the Craft Abyss Equipment Merchant, and by using the stuff that drops in, for example, these Elemental Furies, you can craft the gear set that you need or want or whatever. But you should still be doing them because the gold is nice. So when you get those new gear, they will actually be at plus nothing. So what do you do about that? You don't want to start over again. So you're going to use the gear transfer feature. You're going to first put in the gear that you want to transfer it to, and then the one that you're going to transfer it from. It'll cost you a little bit of silver, but you will get to the exact same stage as the one that you will have on this new upgraded piece of equipment. And that is how you don't lose progress while still upgrading within your tier. One more quick note on gear. The way I think about it is that there is a priority system. So you want to prioritize the color of your gear, orange being the best, blue being the worst, then the quality, which is just a bar of how good it is and how quickly it will break, and finally the engravings. Because engravings, we're going to talk about those more in a moment, but there is absolutely no need to min-max your engravings, especially at tier 1, because you can get by with pretty much anything until you're at around late tier 2 or tier 3. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the builds for your character. This is very important because it changes depending on the content that you're doing. So you have 2 presets, and I recommend using them both. One for Chaos Dungeons and the other for raids. If you're looking for a build, I would highly recommend maxroll.gg. This has a great amount of build guides, and if you just go in here, you can select your class. Say I'm a paladin, and I need a raid guide, and I also need a dungeon build. So it's really simple. I would highly recommend this, particularly for the Chaos Dungeon builds. As for raid builds, I would actually use a different site. This is lowa.com. This is a website that takes data from the Korean server and makes it available for everyone to see. So the way I would go about this is I would go into ranking here at the top. This is translated from Korean into English. And then I would select my class. Say I'm doing it on my sorcerer. And then I could either click the first person, or I could go through all 10 and see what all of them have and aggregate what they do. So I'm just going to click on the first one and then give it a second to load. And then if you go into the second tab right here, uncheck both of these, you can use these icons in order to tell which skills that they are running. And in addition to that, you can see how many points they have put into it, as well as what they allocated into their tripods. So this is just another resource. You can feel free to use whichever you want, but I just wanted to let you guys know it was here. And of course, both will be in the description for you to explore. Next, let's talk about engravings. If you don't know what engravings are, they are these things that you can slot here or that they just activate for reasons that we will talk about in a moment that give you a lot more customization or just a different feel to your class depending on what you do. Each class has 2 engravings for that are class specific, and then there are a bunch of general engravings that are nice to have. The way you start upgrading engravings is that there are these chests that give you these green engraving books. You're going to need 20 of them, so it might take a little bit, but some of the islands that I talked about doing earlier do give engraving books, and on that sheet that I linked for the island guide, it also has a specific engraving section if you want to go get more. The most important things that you need to know about engravings is that they only activate when you have a certain amount of nodes. So if I go into my P menu and click on engraving, you can see that each one of these is a node, and since I only have 10 out of 15 completed for adrenaline, it only activates the level 2 effect. So ideally, you do want to max out your nodes as much as possible, but this is not something I would be super worried about unless you are looking at your class engraving and it changes the way you play the game. Most classes really benefit from their class engraving, so I would recommend trying to get it as soon as possible. The easiest way to do that actually is by going in here, and you can actually double up on your engravings. So this is Energy Overflow, one of my class engravings on Soulfist, and I can put it in here, and now it is activated over here on my engravings tab. But honestly, it's not super necessary to do that because there are other ways of obtaining engravings. The main way you're going to be getting engravings is through your ability stones and other gear. So first, let's talk about ability stones. These drop from your Chaos dungeons, your Guardian raids, and your Abyssal dungeons, and they are actually an RNG way of getting engravings, kind of. So if you look at the stone here, it has 2 good stats and 1 bad stat. The good stat on this one that I'm hovering over are max MP increase and all-out attack, while the bad stat is defense reduction. But you can't actually use these until you have faceted them. Faceting is done at the ability stone cutter, and all you gotta do is put one in, and you have these options here. General rule of thumb, I would go for the blue ones if the success rate is greater than or equal to 55, and go for the red one if it is lower than that. And when you are done fastening, you can just right click on it and it will apply to your character. You also get engravings from your necklace, rings, and earring. So as you can see on this necklace, it has preemptive strike, all-out attack, and movement speed reduction. These are entirely RNG, and there is no way that I know of to change the stats other than just re-rolling a new necklace, ring, or earring. So once you combine this along with the slots and your ability stone, you should be able to get these amazing engravings effects, and it's pretty awesome. If you are new to engravings, I'm going to give you a couple of my recommendations so that if you see them, I would recommend you probably use them. The first one is your class engraving, and I would definitely recommend double slotting it so you get it at least level 1. The next engraving I recommend is Cursed Doll because it gives you an attack power % boost, but it also comes with a healing % reduction. But this does exclude natural recovery, so it's only on your potions or stuff like that. Another solid option is Preemptive Strike because it gives you a guaranteed crit and a damage boost on full HP enemies. I would recommend this specifically for alts that get it because they are mostly relegated to Chaos Dungeons in my experience. Another solid option is Heavy Armor because it gives you a flat % increase to all of your defenses. And this increase is immune to defense reduction abilities. The final recommendation I have for engravings is the Awakening engraving because it reduces the cooldown of your awakening skill pretty significantly. And speaking of awakenings, there are actually 2 awakening abilities per class. You might have one unlocked already, but I'm going to go over with you how you unlock both of them just to make sure you can do them both. The way you unlock your awakening skills is actually pretty simple, but there are some things you need to know. You will get your first quest for awakening at level 50 right around when you get that power pass, so you just need to follow it, go talk to Beatrice and Trixion, and you should be able to have your first awakening ability. So the ability to unlock your second awakening skill is not available to you until you have finished Rowendell, which means you need to be at least item level 460. And once you have finished up Rowendell, you're going to have a purple quest here in the main city given to you by Mail Carrier Centos. This quest is labeled Journey, and then you do it for a while, and you're going to eventually end up with an awakening quest. And once you get to that awakening quest, you're pretty much done. This quest line is rather long. It takes at minimum 4 hours, but it's really worth it, and I'll tell you why. Remember how I mentioned that purple quests are roster quests? Well, that means you can only do it once. So, once you finish this quest, all the characters on your roster will be able to unlock their awakening abilities. Once you're done with the quest, all you need to do on your other characters is head up to Trixion, talk to Beatrice, and you will have it in your mailbox, your second awakening skill. Since this quest is so long, there are ways you can get tripped up on it pretty easily. But if you ever get stuck, down in the description, I've linked a video by Dry Bear Games where he goes through the entire quest line really in detail, basically going through everything that you need to do. So if you do end up needing it, it's down in the description below. And that's pretty much it. If you are able to do all the repeatable content that I mentioned in this video, you should be well on your way to getting item level 600 in about a week or so. Once you're at item level 600, you unlock the new continent of Yorn, and thus the beginning of tier 2 content. Once you're in Yorn, the only thing you need to do is complete the main story quest, and that unlocks the ability to do tier 2 chaos dungeons. Be sure to wait and do these until you have Aura of Resonance available, and then you should be able to get your full set of tier 2 gear. That's item level 802. And once you have it, you can take your old tier 1 gear and gear transfer it into your tier 2 gear for a free +1. You should definitely do this because you cannot re-equip tier 1 gear once you are in tier 2. And that +1 saves you a good amount of resources for tier 2. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, tier 2 resources are much more scarce than in tier 1. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please leave a like. And if you enjoy my content or other Lost Ark content, please consider subscribing because it would really make my day. Leave any questions or comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.